Hi, John Harbaugh here with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy. The importance of coaches in the lives of young athletes can never be underestimated, especially today. I hope you enjoy the valuable, practical insights in this interview with our expert coach. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, it's great to be here with Coach PJ Fleck, Minnesota Golden Gophers, roll the boat, and a highly successful coach both at Minnesota and Western Michigan. Coach, you're approaching all the records at Minnesota for coaching victories, coaching games, coached years, bowl wins, bowl appearances, players in the National Football League. You did amazing things at Western Michigan, which of course close to our family because we were at Western Michigan at one time too. I met my wife at Western Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, great place. But you turned that program around from 1-11 to a major bowl game, and even as a player, you had great success. You set records as a receiver. Took your team to a major bowl game in Northern Illinois. I think you guys are ranked 10th in the country. You just had a ton of success, and you're still doing it. And yet, the players that I've talked to that you've had a chance to coach just love you. They love playing for you. They love being on your team. They like being around you. They say you're one of the greatest motivators they've ever seen. And I just think it's really fun to hear them talk about you, and kind of want to get to know you a little bit for everybody, and kind of see what makes you tick and see what you can add to these coaches out there and parents around the world. So good to be with you.
Coach Harbaugh, it's really nice to be with you as well. It's a pleasure to have some of our players playing for you right now, and been a big fan of you for a long time. I mean, we have the same agent, for gosh sakes, and that always helps. But I think for all the things that you said, I think you'll probably back me up a little bit on this. We're only successful because of the people that we surround ourselves with, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, people that brought us up in this profession, people that showed us the way that we were going to do it, and we're all influenced and impacted that way. One thing I do love about my career is I also met my wife in Kalamazoo, Michigan. But two, I've been the worst coach in America, literally 1-11, 31, 32 years old, youngest coach in America, the worst coach in America. And I've also been coach of the year numerous times. And it's funny because people always, they always want to listen to you when you're a really good football coach, but when you don't have a very good year, you must be a really bad coach. But I've seen the whole spectrum. And I think with this show that you're doing and what you're doing for football in general and doing for sports, for young people in general, you're getting insight for so many people. But the great thing about my career, which I value, is I've been the worst and I've quote unquote been the best. And I've seen everything in between. And really what truly it boils down to is the people you have around you, right? Whether it's coaches, whether it's players, and the culture you create with those people. And so I appreciate you having me on. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, you've been Big Ten Coach of the Year. You've been the Mid-American Conference Coach of the Year. And, it's a great honor. And I know you feel like you said it's the people that you're around. When those things happen for you, when you reach the pinnacle of coaching in that sense, what was the feeling that you had?
To be honest, it was like, that's it. That was it. It's over. Like that was what I wanted. Like that was what I dreamed of, because it happened so fast. And it goes back to that corny quote, but it's true that the dream is really the journey, right? And it's not the end. But so many people and young people want to focus on getting somewhere. They want to be 5 years down the road. They want to be 10 years down the road. They want to be at the end of the season. They want to be in the championship. But the real joy is in that journey of the struggle, the grind, the grit, the overcoming adversity, the handling success, right. Taking the success, passing it to others, taking the adversity and eating it yourself, right? And taking all the responsibility for the entire football team. So you've kind of seen all of it. And I think that's what young people today, I think, really struggle with at times. Just in general, is they want to get somewhere and they have instant information. They see somebody get to somewhere, but they only see a highlight tape. They don't see the struggle that it actually took to get there. That's the issue with social media these days, with Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok and everything. Everybody shows their highlights. You don't see a husband and a wife have an argument on TikTok or Instagram. They're not sharing that with the world. I mean, they're sharing their anniversaries. They're sharing their birthdays. They're sharing the special moments. And I think we have this false sense of identity at times with ourselves, and we kind of don't celebrate that struggle enough. And I think that's where the true joy is, finding it within that struggle together as a team and as an individual in your unrequired work.
You had a best-selling book, right? The Row the Boat book, and Wall Street Journal. I think you were top 10, top 5 bestseller. And it's pretty hard to coach a football team and write a book, but I know that the things you talked about in that book are the things that you talk to your players about all the time, the very things you're talking to us about right now. But along those lines, just tell us about that philosophy, that idea, that thing that kind of undergirds the culture of your program.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, if I can write a book, anybody can write a book. I got an 18 on the ACT 3 times. I think I got a 15 in the writing department, hence why I'm a football coach. But I remember when we got a chance to write it, it was during COVID. I think everybody was at home. It was the first few weeks. I got a call from John Gordon, who I've known forever. And John's like, well, we have nothing else to do. You want to write a book? I was like, absolutely. And it didn't take me very long. It's a personal lifestyle mantra. It's a choice. Row the boat's just a never give up lifestyle. And February 9th, 2011, my second son died of a heart condition. And at the time I was an assistant coach. I wasn't a head coach yet, but I knew when I became a head football coach that I wanted a culture that I could not only just connect my team with, that they would understand that everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody's had different adversity, and you put them in this big melting pot and say, hey, do the right things, get good grades, win games, stay out of trouble, right? Be a good humanitarian. And you put them all in this melting pot, and these expectations are so high. So I wanted to create something that everybody could relate to. And then also, even if people hate football, they're going to love how we run our program, how we run our culture. And we define culture as connecting people. That's all cultures do. You're really good at it in the National Football League. People that play for you, a coach for you, people say you can't create that in the National Football League. You have. There's been a handful of coaches that do it very well, like yourself. You have a different way of connecting people than other people, and you take a lot of pride in that. So I wanted to do the same thing, and we took adversity from my son Colton passing away and said, how can we show ourselves as human beings? Because sometimes as coaches, we get dehumanized. We're put on this pedestal like we don't have normal lives, and don't have families, and don't have adversity, and don't have struggle. People see a salary, people see status, and they assume that you have a perfect life. So I wanted to make sure that I put my life out there for people to say, listen, we're going to use it for really good. And there's 3 parts to it: an oar, a boat, and a compass. The oar is the energy you bring to your life. We're not talking egocentric energy. We're not talking boisterous energy. We're talking about purpose energy. What is your purpose in life? Why are you here? What are you doing beyond what your title says you are? And how are you doing it? So the energy is the only thing that can move a boat, and every single one of us have a choice to make. You're going to put your oar in the water, you're going to take it out. That's the only choice we have in life, is the decision to put the oar back in the water, no matter what happens to us, and who we do that with. And the second part's the boat, and the boat is the symbolic to the sacrifice. If you can get a lot of people on your team serving and giving and living a life of serving and giving and not making it about themselves, then you can create a massive boat that's really strong, that can survive any storm, that can take people very far distances. Because if you don't, you got a really small boat, it's going to sink in a storm, and you can't take many people with you. And I think young people really need to understand that if you truly do things for other people, your life will be better. It will reciprocate your good deeds. So we want to have a team that truly doesn't think about themselves first. And then the third part's the compass, and that's who you surround yourself with. You're only headed where you're headed based on who you surround yourself with. I wear a tie on the sideline. My compass is Jim Tressel and Mike Nolan. You know Mike very well. Well, Mike Nolan cut me in the NFL. He told me, you're not good enough. He actually found out I was still on the team year 3. He's like, this guy's still here. And said, let's get this guy off the team. But he cut me, and then in the same breath, he offered me a coaching job and said, I think you'd be a great coach. I said, well, what am I going to do? He goes, I don't know. I don't have a job for you. I'm going to make one up. And I said, great. I went home to think about it. And in the same time, Jim Tressel called me and offered me a GA job because his GA couldn't get into school. It's amazing, because I was just going to teach 6th grade social studies. Mm-hmm. And so Mike Nolan not only cut me, which most people would think would be devastating and ruin your career, but 2, offered me a coaching job and gave me the confidence to say, I think you'd be really good at something. And I'm like, really? And here I am as a Big Ten football coach because of him, and because Jim Tressel gave me my start. My dad kills bugs for a living. My mom's a teacher's aide. We have no coaching in my background, but that's why I wear a tie on the sideline, because of my compass. And I wouldn't be where I am without those 2 guys. So every time I take the field, I'm there because of those 2 men. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be there. So that's why I always wear a tie. So that's the whole row the boat mantra, lifestyle. Our backs to the future. We're rowing in the present. we're looking at the past, which is the only thing you can't change, but you can learn from. So that's that whole row the boat mindset. And we built our whole program around it.
Talk about the tie a little bit. You know, the idea just struck me as I heard you say that gratitude, you know, the idea that these people made a difference in your life. And so many people, like, they talk about networking, or they talk about 5-year plan and where am I going to be in 5 years and how am I going to get there? And I've always found that, you know, really the first time I started making plans is the moment they started falling apart. And you know, if I'm working hard, good things happen for me, and God had a plan for me anyway. But, you know, you talk about the fact that you got these phone calls and it's like they just came out of the blue, and some people might say, well, he just got lucky. You know, he had a break that other people didn't have. And I know that's not the case. So what do you think created those opportunities for you with the people that, you know, made those calls for you that you're so grateful for?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think back to I was always the king of the twos, TOO, too small, too short, too slow, too this. Everybody had a reason why I couldn't do something. From academics, I told you when I got in the ACT, but I became an academic All-American. I was a 5'9", 150-pound wide receiver out of high school. I set basically every receiving record in the state of Illinois, and I didn't have any offers. We won back-to-back state championships, went 14-0 and 14-0. And there was a school at Northern Illinois University, and they were on a 27-game losing streak. And Joe Novak at the time offered me. I think I was the last offer because, I mean, how much worse could it get? It was 26, 27 games in a row. And that whole class turned Northern Illinois around because we were all a bunch of king of the twos. Our purpose was greater than ourselves. We were all told we couldn't do something, and we were overachievers. And I think if you get enough overachievers, and that's what we talk about in our program, about finding the right fit, not stars, but the fit. I'm not for everybody, nor do I want to be for everybody. I obviously wasn't good enough for any of the colleges to get a scholarship, but I played in the NFL for 2.5 years. So I must have been good enough for an Alabama or Auburn or USC at some point. But you have to be able to look past my 5'9", 150-pound stature to know how I played. And there was a guy by the name of Mike Sabach, who was our special teams coordinator at the time. And Mike was fraternity brothers with Jim Tressel. So when Jim Tressel's GA job opened, he called Mike immediately. And Mike was like, well, PJ Fleck just got cut. He'd be perfect for you. I've told you about him for years. We've talked about him. And I never met Jim in my life. So Jim trusted Mike Sabach's opinion of me, of how I played for 5 years at Northern Illinois and how my short NFL career was, to trust that I'd be perfect for his program. So we can talk about the breaks we get, but we don't get to where we are without people, without people who are willing to help us. But you got to open your eyes, because everything that you do, everything that you create, every play that you play, everything that comes out of your mouth is an audition for 10 years down the road. And I think we don't realize that is what we're saying now will affect them. How we practice now will affect them. You know, how we serve our community will affect them. And somebody's going to notice. And it doesn't have to be seen or said, but somebody's noticing. And at some point, that'll come back to you. And it came back to me at a point where I got an opportunity. But I earned that opportunity over my high school career, my college career, that somebody thought well enough of it to mention my name when somebody asked about, hey, do you have a guy? And he could have mentioned 20 guys. But he mentioned me because I stood out enough to get that blessing from him.
Every day is a job interview, right? Wherever you're at, no matter what you're doing. Along the way, you got this unbelievable energy, this amazing kind of belief in yourself. Like you said, you were too this, but you were also too tough to be denied. I would say that too. Your attitude was too strong to be kept, to be kept out. Who believed in you early on? Who is it that gave you that kind of mindset that said, you can do this?
Yeah, well, first of all, what I did was I never really compared myself to other people, because when I did that, I was always too small or too slow. I was in it to prove to myself that I was good enough. My dad was kind of a smaller guy, undersized, kind of a boxing type guy, tough guy, south side of Chicago. And he knew I wasn't going to be the biggest guy. So he always made sure that I wasn't trying to prove to someone else that I was good enough. Because I think LeBron James is still trying to prove that he's the greatest player in the NBA. He's not proving that, but people are questioning whether he is or not. If people are questioning whether Steph Curry is the greatest to ever play, there's always going to be somebody that finds something you're not good at once you achieve something. And going back to your first question, once you've achieved something, what happens? You're like, that's it. Because we put a lot of our value in monetary value or rings or accomplishments and awards. those become empty. I always give people an analogy. I love to drive fast. The speed limit here in Minneapolis is 55, but I like Corvettes, and I had a 650 horsepower Corvette. And guess what? After a year, wasn't fast enough. Got a 750 horsepower Corvette. Wow, it's a lot faster. Not fast enough. Now I don't have any sports cars because it could never be enough. And I was always comparing it to the last one. Same thing. And so I was always put on that older baseball team. If I was 9, I was playing on an 11-year-old team. If I was 7, I was on a 9-year-old team. And back then, you could do that. And nobody asked questions. And I was always playing up. And I think that's where I've always had to coach up too, because there's so many guys who have been part of a coaching fraternity that I don't know if I'd necessarily be a part of. Maybe I don't know some of the same people they do, and I don't have a big enough tree, but I've got enough people who believed in me, that gave me an opportunity, and they allowed me to be myself. And I think that's where, looking back on it, where I learned at a young age was just be you. And you don't have to be anybody else but yourself. And eventually that'll be good enough for somebody. But I think too many people try to be somebody that they're not. They try to act like a head coach. They try to act like an NFL player. They try to act like their title instead of just being the real, authentic, transparent you. And if you do that, you are going to stand out, because 99% of the world just tries to be what they are. And they have really no understanding what that really looks like.
So let's talk about football, man. We kind of both found our way in football. What is it about football that makes it great, different, hard, wonderful, all those different things that makes it special?
Well, I think the answer I think a lot of people give is it's just like life. And I think that's pretty corny. And it's like, yeah, it's just like life. A lot of sports are like life. But life is, if you want a life of success, or you want a name worth remembering, if you want to create a legacy, remember, a legacy you don't get to create because you're dead. Somebody's going to have to talk about you, like the musical Hamilton. Who's going to tell your story? We don't have control over that. We just got to make an impact. But when you start to think about those types of things, I think a lot of people, they get lost in their journey. And have a hard time being able to connect the dots back to who they really are. But like I said, I mean, we're doing everything we possibly can to leave impacts in football. It's a hard game. There's choices to be made every single play for 60, 70, 80 snaps a game. You practice way more than you play. And I think that's what makes it really special, that in baseball, there's a reward basically every day. You're either going to win or lose, and those wins and losses don't matter as much. They just don't. I mean, you have a bad day today, so what? You're not expected to win them all. In football, if you don't win them all, you're probably not going to be in the national championship. So there's this massive standard and expectation. And if you want a life worth remembering, you're not going to live a life of ease. And I think there's a choice to be made. And every single down, every single day, every single practice, every single minute, there's required work that we all have to do. And then there's unrequired work that you get a choice to be able to do. And when you have to and want to start matching, I think that's what makes this game really special. And it's a short period of time. Besides Tom Brady, it's really hard to play it for a very long time. And it's a short window to make a huge impact. And there's so many lessons to learn from life. And, I think it's the greatest game because we've been able to make our, obviously, careers out of it, but you can truly teach so many life lessons of everything: success, adversity, failure, maturity, leadership. It's everywhere. But again, I think the biggest thing that makes it hard is there's a lot more practice than there is games. And so there's a bigger price to pay in this sport than most.
It's a practice sport, no doubt. So if you're talking to parents, and they want to decide, should I let my son really wants to play. He wants to play flag football. He wants to play tackle football. And what different ages? What would you tell those parents? What's the benefit for their son?
Well, first of all, I'm a firm believer with USA football, and there's a true progression of football. I really believe that, especially in 2022 with so much data and research that's out there. I think football is the greatest game in the world. But I also think there's a progression to it. I think the biggest advice I have parents is it's got to be fun. It's a sport. It's still a sport. And I think sometimes these days, to be really fun, there's a natural progression from flag football to tackle football, to even introductory camps in the summer. You come to our football camp, John, our little kid football camp, which we're starting to create. Like, we're recruiting some of the kids that finally went to that camp. There's so many, there's baseball, there's gymnastics, there's bounce houses, there's dunk tanks, there's balloons, there's water balloon fights, there's football. It's fun. when I think back to when I was a kid, football was fun. Everybody made it fun. And even the camps I went to were fun. The natural progression I had, it wanted me to keep going back to the sport instead of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, hating going to practice. And I think practice has to be emphasized as fun, even just as much as games. Is it easy? No, but it still can be fun because you're enjoying the journey together as parents and son or daughter. There's a great book called You Have What It Takes. It's very short. It's about 70 pages. And it talks about having sons and daughters, but it talks about what your son needs to hear every day from you as a parent. And he has to hear, you have what it takes. You're good enough, period. Right. And your daughter has to hear the same thing, but then she also has to hear that she's lovely from her dad. Lovely is not a physical trait. Lovely is an internal feeling. It's your soul, it's your spirit, it's your mind, it's your emotions. And it talks about actually saying the right things to your son and daughter in their upbringing and attaching that to sports. It's a phenomenal short book, but we do everything we can. Tell our daughters they have what it takes and they're lovely every day. Support them in their cheer and gymnastics and baseball and whatever we're doing here. And our sons, the same thing. Just you have what it takes inside you, but you're going to have to pay a price to get there. You're going to have to sacrifice certain things. And you're going to have to make decisions on unrequired work. I think that's not forced upon. It's got to be taught. But then ultimately that son or daughter's got to make the choice to do it. And it's up to us to make it as fun as possible so they can see their growth and development and be there as parents, not just coaches.
You got 4 amazing kids and they're doing different things during sports. Talk about them a little bit. And then your thoughts in terms of activities they get involved in, all the things you're talking about. You know, it's got to be fun for them. You know what you're looking for when you pick a sport or you allow them to engage in an activity with drama or club or whatever it is, and you look for the coach or the leader. What are you looking for as a parent for your kids?
Well, one, if you're going to start something, you got to finish it, right? So we always tell them if you're going to start something, you better finish it. And then 2, we have a 14-year-old son, Gavin, 12-year-old son, Carter. And then we have 2 daughters, 9 and 8 years old, 9-year-old Paisley and 8-year-old Harper. And it's amazing. They're all very different. Our 14-year-old has just passed my wife in height. He's growing like a weed. He's really more into the extreme sports, loves to ski, loves to wake surf, loves dirt biking, 4-wheeling, loves to be outside, loves to get muddy, is a gearhead. I mean, he's basically had his own jet ski since he's been 8 years old, his own 4-wheeler since he's like 6 years old. He's a gearhead, motorhead. And then our 12-year-old's a great baseball player. And that's the sport he invests his entire year in. He gets, spring ball, he gets fall ball, he's traveling all the time, and he loves baseball and he's passionate about it. We've never forced football upon him. He really enjoys baseball. And then our daughters are in cheer, and probably the most competitive sports out of all the boys is the girls win with cheer. So it's pretty amazing, but they're both very athletic. They both, really love being a part of a team. And our 8-year-old's probably the most competitive person in the entire family. And she has a gift. You can tell she has a gift. She is the most competitive person, like I said, I've ever met as a child. That is a child, and she's ruthless. And,
sometimes the younger one is, they gotta fight their way through sometimes, and they see what the older ones are doing, man. They want to catch up. I think it's a good thing.
We've got a 9-year-old daughter that's incredibly gullible, will believe anything you say, and our 8-year-old will. She'll manipulate you right back real fast, and she'll flip the script on you pretty quick. But it's amazing how they're all very different, but they're all really good kids. And that's what's fun about being a parent. They're really good people. They have great hearts. Their hearts are always in the right spot. But again, our daughters are at our football games, and they're like, "Hey, when's Dad's baseball game done? We want to get back to the house." Like, they could care less that you're at football game. Right. That's the one thing it's very humbling, because they could care less. They don't know why people want pictures of their dad or stop us in the mall or stop us here. They don't care. They don't understand why people like at donor events or charity events will pay thousands of dollars to have dinner with us. They kind of look at us like, have they seen him eat? Have they actually watched him eat a cheeseburger before? Like, they want to pay for this. So it's pretty humbling and a lot of fun.
Who are the best coaches, and what are the traits of the best coaches, whether it's been the cheer, the baseball, or the motor stuff that helped your kids? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think that, Mike McCarthy said this to me a long time ago. He said, the job of a coach is to teach and demand. And I think that's critical, right? It all can break down that way. You have to be able to teach. Telling, explaining, yelling, that's not teaching. Now, there could be forms of it, but can you truly teach? And part of what I do every single day is being somebody who's raised and brought up in a profession of teaching how to teach 32 sixth graders 5 times a day, ancient Rome, 32 different ways, right? 160 times a day, 160 students a day. And you got to find the most cultural way to teach a lifetime lesson, and everybody learns differently. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be able to teach it. And there's proper ways of teaching. The greatest coaches are the best teachers. And they can truly teach anything, not just coach one position or coach one scheme. They can teach. And then you can't ask. You have to demand. And you got to demand at a level where people want to do it for you. At the end of the day, if they don't want to do it for you, right, you're not going to get anything out of them. So the demand can't be just screaming, mother effing, yelling, frustrating, frustrations when reality and expectation don't meet. I mean, you have to be able to have incredible expectations, but reality of exactly where you are, and everybody's got to be on that same page, right? And reality isn't an excuse. Some people say, well, I don't dream big, I'm a realist. That doesn't make any sense to me. Reality is exactly where you are right now. It's real right now. But my expectation is for you to keep changing your best and move forward. So you've got to teach and you have to demand. And Mike McCarthy told me that and taught me that when I played for him back in San Francisco. And then, players have to be able to prepare and perform. I can't perform. I can't catch the ball anymore. But I've got to do my best job of teaching and demanding so he does do that and put him in the best position to do that. But they have to prepare to be the best player they can be, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. And that all comes out on game day. That all comes out on the day-to-day practice. And we believe in a holistic approach of doing that. I've got to teach and demand life in all 4 phases of their life, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And then they have to be able to prepare and perform mentally, physically, and emotionally, and do it academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. And those standards are very, very clear every day. And that's part of creating a positive culture. That's how we connect each other. We all know each other's expectations. My players have the exact same power to bring the program down as I do, or our running back coach, or our young lady at the front office. We all have the power to do that. We also have the power to move the program forward, and everybody has to feel that empowerment. But I think the lines and the job descriptions of exactly what we're doing have to be very clear. And coach comes from the stagecoach word. The origin of the word is a coach. Is take people from where they are in a stagecoach, right, to where they want to be. That's what we do. We're in the dream profession, and you live in the dream profession of winning Super Bowls and taking rookies from where they want to go and be all pros, Super Bowl champions, but also better husbands, better fathers at that point. Just not enough people are willing to invest time in doing that.
So speaking of the dream, recruiting, right? Big part of it. And it's challenging, I'm sure, from your end, but it's also challenging from the parents' end. But what are you looking for when you look for a young guy that's going to be a football player in Minnesota?
I'm looking for fit. I mean, it's simple, right? Too many people look at all the wrong things. There's a lot of football players out there, and there's a lot of them that are good enough. But which ones are good enough for me? Which ones are going to fit the king of the twos? Which one are going to fit the overachieving mentality? Where's the maturity level of that person? The have to, want to, have to match. Because your have to doesn't match your want to. It doesn't matter what star you are. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how fast you run, right? Who wants to be developed in every area of their life? And I'm a life coach. I'm not a football coach. Football's part of our life. And I'm here to teach life. And who wants that? Who wants that in their life for the rest of their life? And I get it. I'm not for everybody. I mean, Daniel Falele, who you know now very well, him and I have a very different personality. But at the time, he wanted to be developed. So we fit each other. And it was a perfect fit. And I'm glad he played for us because we felt like we got the most out of him. And now he can go hopefully have a great NFL career and take all those lessons he's learned. But we don't have to have the same energy externally, or we don't have the same voice or the same volume. That's not what I'm talking about. But we have to match internally, our heart, our spirit, our unconquerable will, our crack on our shoulder, proving to ourselves that we're good enough, not to somebody else. Like-minded people around each other, not the same, but like-minded people who don't think of themselves first. They think of so many other people, rowing the boat, serving and giving. That's what I'm looking for. The football player, that's the easiest part of our job. We can evaluate. I can look at my 8-year-old daughter being around me long enough, can look at a film and say, yeah, that's a pretty good football player. Right. But now it comes down to, is it a right fit for us? And we take a lot of pride in that. And I know I'm not for everybody. And I don't even know if I'd consider me recruit. I don't recruit people. I almost draft people because I'm not convincing players to come to Minnesota. I'm telling them exactly what it's like expectation-wise academically, exactly what we do socially, expectations, exactly what our expectations are spiritually, exactly what my expectations are, right, athletically. Come to a practice. Yeah, it looks really cool, and then you got to do it, right? So I lay it all out there, and what you see is exactly what you get. And then they're more buying me. I've already offered you. Like that's me saying, I think you're good enough and a great fit for me. However, here's all the things you're going to do. And if it scares you, good, because it's going to test whether you want it or not. And the ones that thrive and come to the light, those are the ones I take. The ones that run away from that and they don't want that type of experience, it's easy. It gets weeded out throughout the recruiting process. But I'm not here to recruit players that aren't going to fit me, because I've had really talented 5-4-star kids and it never panned out. And I've also had kids that had no stars that were a top 5 pick. So it's all about, I've learned in 10 years of being a head coach, it's that fit. And that I think that's really important, that it's okay not to be for some people. I'm not going to be for everybody, and go where you're needed, wanted, and where you fit.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, to flip the question a little bit now. Put yourself in the parents' shoes. You got your boys and girls coming up. I went through with my daughter a couple of years ago, and it was really different being on the other side of it. It's a different sport. And maybe it's football, but also maybe the other sports too. It's kind of all the same thought. If you're in their shoes, what are you thinking about? What are you looking for?
Well, first of all, you got to break down some of the things from third parties that are going to tell you what to do. You need to, first of all, get around people you really trust, who have been there, done that, and don't have any other, they have no skin in the game. They're just giving you an honest, neutral opinion, because too many people want to benefit off of your son from the outside, or your daughter from the outside. So finding that neutral party is going to be critical, because I think you do have to find a neutral piece of that. The second thing is a place, a building, a logo, a conference, a quad, a tree has never made someone's life better, ever. Right? You don't go lean on a tree when you're having a really bad day. But you know what, tree, you've made my day a lot better. Thank you. But too many people sell so many things that don't matter.
Right.
People, period, make the world go. And everybody says, well, what if coaches get fired? Yeah, what if coaches get fired? Then pick a coach with a long contract, right? And so it's going to take a lot for that guy to get fired. Right. Well, what if that coach takes a better job? Well, if that coach took a better job, then don't you think they're going to hire somebody from that staff that is a part of that staff to keep that culture going? Probably. But there is no guarantees. But you got to take the information of what you have. If you really like a coach, but they haven't lost for 2 to 3 years, and they'll have 1 year left on the contract, that guy's probably not going to be there. What parents don't understand is that 95% of your son or daughter's time at a university is going to be spent under that coach's culture, period. Weight training, nutrition, the mental health department attached to the athletic department, your strength training, your nutrition, your coaches, your friends, like-minded people that are going to be living with your son in the dorms, study table, study hall, everything, the chow hall, all around these student athletes that this coach has trusted to bring everybody like-minded around to form this one team that's telling you it's a good team, right? And 5% of your time is going to be spent in academia, university world, whatever that looks like. And that's ran by the president, and that's ran by the board of regents, and that's ran by, the professors and the faculty. There's nothing wrong with that, but your son or daughter is going to go to class and then come back to an academic tutor, learning specialist, strength and conditioning, nutritionist, right? All these people, rehab people, training room, equipment room, all this stuff. So that's the best advice I can give people, is find the right people that are going to invest in your son or daughter the right way. But places will never do that. I think too many people sell places. I'm in a place. I'm in a Big Ten school. I'm in one of the most traditional programs in America. We have, some of the most national championships out of any. We have 7 national titles, 18 Big Ten championships. Guess what? Nobody cares. That doesn't make your son or daughter's life any better. The people there are going to make that experience and those moments and memories better. Focus on those things.
All right. So you're a major college football coach, you're building your staff, or you're a high school football coach and you're building your staff, or maybe you're just a coach in any sport. How do you build your staff?
Yeah. First of all, I look for anybody that I do know. I love hiring people I know. But 2, if I don't know them, then one thing I do when I sit down with them, I want to see them teaching. I want to watch this person teach me things. Because we're coaches, we're going to be teaching them life. We're going to be teaching them football. I want to see him present things back to me. I want to see the in-depth knowledge of what he has, obviously football wise, but life wise. I tell him, listen, tell me about your life from now till birth. And then I listen to it. And I don't want all the good stuff. I want the hard stuff. I usually don't hire anybody who hasn't been through some serious adversity. I don't want to be the first member that somebody's working for, that it's their first experience handling something really bad. I do the same thing with recruiting players. The harder life, the better for me. I love hiring fired football coaches. I know that sounds crazy, but the ones that have come back from the fire and rebuilt their career, that's what I want. And I want amazing people. Don't have to be perfect, but I want amazing people. Nobody has a perfect family. Nobody has a perfect marriage. I don't want perfect. And I think I want as far away from perfect as I possibly can get. When I'm talking about that, I want people who have been able to overcome, people that are connectors, people that are teachers, people that positively influence other people. People call me a motivational head coach. I don't think I am. I don't even know what people always ask, have you always been like this? I'm like, what? I don't even know what that means. I just want people who love their life. They love education. They love teaching. They love the game of football. They love young people. Young people shouldn't piss you off. Young people, listen, my young people never make me mad. Do they disappoint me? Sure. Just like a parent, but they don't piss me off. I don't allow a young person to make me mad. They disappoint me, but I want the like-minded people who feel that same way, that are going to be able to handle that responsibility of taking all the responsibility when things aren't going well, but also give the success when it comes. So that's what I look for when I'm hiring a staff.
Okay. So young coaches coming up, there's a lot of advice people get. What advice do you give them in terms of doing a job where they're at, opportunities that might present themselves, moving up through the ranks? How should they look at that?
Yeah. Keep your head where your ass is. Jim Tressel told me that a long time ago. And that advice has rang true in my career. I just hired a safeties coach that has been with me 10 years. From the second week I was starting at Western Michigan University, this young man by the name of Danny Collins was a student coach for me. And he was a student coach for 2 years. Then he became a GA, then a QC, then came to Minnesota with me, was a GA again and a QC. And now he's my safety coach. And it took him 9 years to get there. He turned down job after job after job to stay within the culture, because I told him, one day you're going to be where you dream of being. And now I'm going to hire you when you're ready, but you also might need experience somewhere else. We had enough coaches come in and out, and he kept sticking around. I gave him a lot of responsibility and ended up hiring him. Then there's people who have to break away to go get experience. The reason why Danny Collins stuck around so long, because the minute a coach left, we'd fill out NCAA waivers and he'd coach that position. He basically coached every position on defense before during bowl prep. So I knew that he was ready because I watched his meetings when he was coaching these players. And then there's some that are GAs and QCs or young coaches coming up that need to go coach their position somewhere and have their own room and then come back to us. But I would say, keep your head where your butt is and work really hard, and somebody's going to notice. I never met Greg Schiano ever. And he hired me based on what he had heard from Brian Harlan, which I'm not sure how many people trust what Brian Harlan says, but Brian Harlan told him, I got this guy at Northern Illinois. He's an up and coming future head coach, I think, and he needs somebody like you. And I didn't even know what that meant too. And Greg took a flyer on me. My interview lasted 3 days with Greg Schiano, and I moved out to Rutgers, and it changed my life forever in a lot of ways. Some good, some bad. But I became a man, and went to him with Tampa Bay, and then got a head coaching job from there. And everybody in my life at the time told me, it's probably, I don't know if that job's going to fit you. Well, Brian Harlow said it's exactly what you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a head coach, you need to go work for this guy. And I think it hardened me. It made me have leather skin. It made me grow up from a boy to a man. And sometimes those experiences that we need are not easy to take. You got to make a lot of sacrifices. I never lived in the Northeast. And I know how demanding Greg was to work for in a very, very positive way. And I knew that I needed that. So sometimes the most popular decision isn't necessarily the right one that you need to make, but what's best for your career.
Your teams play with a lot of discipline. They show discipline off the field too, but they play with a lot of discipline. How do you approach discipline generally? What does that mean to you, your guys? What's it mean to you?
Well, I think being able to, discipline gets thrown around in a lot of different areas. We don't condition our team after practice. We condition in practice. I don't discipline our players with punishment of running. I want us to be the most conditioned team in the country and do it because that's what our standard is. We want to do it, and we're not going to do it except do it in practice. Somebody gets something wrong or doesn't do something right, we don't punish them with conditioning. We teach them, we educate them. They have to write letters based on what the word that matches, what they did wrong. And 6 a.m. in the morning, if they're late, then what does being on time mean? Why is it so important? Let's watch a YouTube video on being on time and then write letters of what it has to be able to do. Let's use education. Because it with young people, taking away their time is really important. But discipline's not about like, if you don't do this, this will happen. I think it's understanding of matching, like, here's what we have to do to be a champion. And here's where you have to go to be where you say you want in your life. Because what I do is I interview every one of our players and say, where do you want to go? Okay, perfect. I'll help you get there. But here's these expectations. And you have to want to do this unrequired work as well. So the discipline to me is the unrequired. It's the ability to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. And you'll never know what that really is. And I love when people say, we're going to be the hardest working team in the Big Ten. How can I say that? I don't even know. How can I compare that to your brother's team? How do I know what your brother's team's even doing? How can I know what Ohio State's doing? And I want to be the best working team we can be. We won 9 games last year we've only won 9 games 4 times in the history of Minnesota. We've done it twice in the last few years. And people say, well, that's a great year last year. I said, well, actually, I failed as a head coach because I didn't feel like I got the most out of my team. Even though we won 9 games, I felt like we weren't disciplined enough. And we cost ourselves some wins. But we also won some games maybe we weren't supposed to win, but we cost ourselves at times. But discipline's that willingness to be very transparent, very open, very authentic, and very real with yourself, knowing that this is what we have to do, and we want to match that with our want to. And discipline to me, that's what it means to me. And I don't even know what, like I said, that what others are willing to do. I don't know what others are willing to do. I just know there's a massive price to pay, and you have to pay it.
Head coach is a big job, especially at your level. You're dealing with people like in all directions, administration, professors, people on boosters, as well as players, coaches, people that work for you in the building. How do you deal with that time wise, and how do you try to work with the administrators, professors, people on campus that you work with every day?
Well, I think understand everybody has a job to do. Right. And everybody, first of all, wants to be the head coach, right? Until you're the head coach. Mm-hmm. And then you see the head coach job for what it is. And now on college football, 90% of what I do every single day doesn't necessarily apply to the X and O part of football, where I'm the head coach. Everything I've done football wise has led me to the head job. And then 90% of what I'm asked to do has nothing to do with football. But that 10% of football, I've got to be amazing in. And I got to do my job really well. And part of me doing my job really well is making sure that I coach my coaches and that I make my players better by making my coaches better coaches and providing the resources that are necessary for everybody to have what they need. And that's part of being a head coach working with administration. Our administration's got a tough job, and putting yourself in their shoes. I think even the 2020 season made all of us do that. They have a very hard job to do as well. So the fundraising, the administration, the donors, the boosters, it's all part of it. It's not something that I don't like to do because it's not part of football. It's part of my head coaching job. And if you look at it like, I don't want to do that, you're going to hate your job. But if you embrace it as part of your job and know that that's what it takes to be the best head coach you can be, because you're not going to have the resources to give to your coaches to either keep them, give them what they need, keep their families happy, and joyful, keep their, give them what they need to be successful coaches. Then you don't know how it all connects then. And so they're just as valuable as you. And you guys have such a great organization between, the upper management and coaching staff. And that's why you're really successful. And I think the teams that have that relationship, we might not always see eye to eye. We might not always agree, but we know where each other's coming from. And I think, I even deal with it with my coaches. Well, it's administration. They're always against you. No, that's not true. We have one of the greatest athletic directors in the world. He's one of the greatest people. Now he's got to make tough decisions. Yeah. And I'm sorry that it wasn't exactly what you exactly visioned and wanted, but you're not the athletic director, nor are you the head coach, right? Just like when your players don't run the right route, just like you wanted them to run it. Mm-hmm. So there's all perspective to be learned from throughout of it. It just depends on where you look.
How do you put together all that with the work-life balance? You got your family, you've got your job. How do you balance that out?
That's the hardest part. I don't know if there is a lot of balance. I think it's included. I think when people talk about balance, it's always if you put your life with football, how much time you spend at the office, I guarantee it goes like this. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. the quantity versus the quality has to go way up. And we have a blended family. So not only are we a football family, we're blended. And we have kids in multiple states. And we got to make all that work, plus have a head coaching schedule and be in charge of 125 other sons mm-hmm. and have a staff. And so you can imagine it's all together. For us, it's together. We don't really separate it. I don't know if you have time to separate. We watch Yellowstone once in a while, Heather and I at night, and it's a great show. But a phone call from a kid or a recruit interrupts it. Right. So it's 24/7. And I don't know if it's balance of bringing it with time. I don't think time can be balanced, right. But I do think the quality can be balanced mm-hmm. where when I am home, I'm not great at it and I'm not perfect at it, but the time I give is just as equivalent, or the quality I give is just as equivalent to the time I could have if it was just quantity. That's where the balance comes in, is the quality versus the quantity. And I think everybody needs to look at that as a husband, as a father, as a coach, as a daughter, as a mother, is that quality. And we're forced to have that quality. When we get our kids, they don't even think I work for a living because I'm constantly with them. And if I need to go to the office, they're with me. So they don't even know I go to work because they don't necessarily see it all the time, because the quality is so heavy when we have them that we incorporate them involved in what we're doing.
It's inspiring to hear you. I'm going to get Megan to get back through and get all these notes, because I learned a lot listening. I can see why you're as successful as you are, man. I can see why guys love playing for you and why coaches love coaching for you. It's impressive. So everything I've ever heard, and we've talked before a little bit, but it's a great job. Visit HarbaughCoachingAcademy.org.